a good afternoon. To those in the West Coast and the Central Time Zone, a good morning. To those following from Israel, Europe, and other parts abroad, a good evening. And once again, we have a real challenging situation in the Gaza. We have not only air troops, we have ground troops there. And this afternoon, we have the honor and the privilege of really hearing a briefing and analysis from Major General Nadav Padan. And then we'll have a chance to ask the Major General a number of questions. Major General Padan, thank you very much for addressing us and for giving us the briefing.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Steve. I'll try very briefly to go over the situation in Israel right now and speak about the challenge for the nearest future, and then I'll open it to question. I want to start with the general situation in Lebanon and Syria because nothing dramatically changed during the last few weeks, although it doesn't mean that there is no challenges there. And the translation of those challenges that there is three divisions that are dealing with it on a daily basis. So while we're focusing on Gaza Strip in a second, during the brief, we'll have to keep in mind that it's not the only challenge of Israel. Israel is still dealing with 7 different arenas. And every day there is development in each one of them. We just heard this morning that French asked all the diplomats of French to leave Iran. And we start this morning with a rocket from Yemen before we get to the rocket and what's going on in Gaza Strip. So we're going to focus on Gaza Strip, but I want you to keep in mind that while we're dealing with Gaza Strip, Israel and the IDF specifically are dealing with another 6 arenas. So speaking about the situation in Gaza Strip, we got a situation that the negotiation with Hamas stuck. Means that while we didn't move forward with releasing our hostages, there is still 59 hostages, live and bodies of hostages in Gaza Strip under the captivity of Hamas and other organizations. And nothing moved forward with this while the Hamas starts rebuilding himself. Not only that, they didn't move forward with the negotiation while we were in ceasefire situation, take advantage of the situation and start recover their storages of rocket. They start exposing back the storages of missiles and ammunition that been covered under the bombs of the IDF during the war and start rebuild themselves as a military of terror. We are not even close to the situation that Hamas were in October 6th, October 7th, for the maneuver into Gaza Strip. Hamas is no longer a military of terror, but they still have a lot of storages. And I think a few hundred, I don't know the exact number. I don't know if someone knows the exact number, even the Hamas himself know the exact number of rocket and missile that's still under the terrain of Gaza Strip. But we saw this morning that they launched 3 rockets toward the center of Israel, from the city of Khan Yunis. And it's very easy when there is a situation in Gaza Strip that there is hundreds of rockets sprayed all over the Gaza. And even when we bomb some of the places, during the weeks of ceasefire, they expose it, reorganize it. And as we saw, they've been able to launch 3 rockets. Still, let's put it in perspective. We're speaking about 3 rockets, while at the very beginning of the war, we spoke about thousands of rockets and hundreds of rockets per day. So we're not in the same situation. Definitely, Hamas is not in the same situation, but it could still launch attack, in that case, rocket. And in other cases that we face all over the last hours, teams of terrorists try to put IDs, explosive devices on the path and try to be ready to welcome maneuver into Gaza Strip from the north to the south. So let's go back to the situation that things been stuck and there were no option for the negotiation to move forward. and it forced Israel to continue with the pressure, with the military pressure. We have no other option on the table. Let's face it. And IDF surprisingly catch the Hamas with the airstrike 3 days ago. This surprise allowed the IDF to target the leadership of Hamas, including few key players that were involved in October the 7th and involved in the rehabilitation and rebuild of Hamas the last several months. And from all the big names, the head of the government of Hamas in Gaza Strip, the head of security in Anana, I would mark only one name that, from my perspective, is a key player, Rashid Jahjouh, that been assassinated this morning. This guy is the head of the general security of Hamas, and he was the operator of the son of the brother of Sinwar for rebuilding Hamas, and it's a big loss for this terror organization this morning. And we thank God for the intelligence and for our Air Force to be able to target him this morning. But he's not the only one. Under the big name that been published, hiding battalion commanders and brigade commander and other key players that been eliminated. And for the Hamas, it's a huge loss. They lost over 500 terrorists since the opening of fire by the IDF, which is a huge loss. And last morning, IDF start maneuvering into some part of Gaza Strip. What we did is we start maneuvering into Gaza with three heads. The first one is at the very north, at the area of Bet Hanun, Bet Lahia, the north part of Gaza Strip, that push the people that already came back to those towns back to the UN shelter at the southwest side of Gaza Strip. The other part is the corridor along the Gaza River, what got the nickname Be'eri Corridor, what used to be the main interest to the settlement Netzarim before the withdrawal from Gaza Strip. This area were inspected by American subcontractor with the help of the Egyptian. Since the beginning of the operation, they withdraw from their position, and therefore there was no inspection of movement between the north and the south part of Gaza Strip, and the IDF got into some part of this corridor. And the last head is at the very south, close to the city of Rafah. They tried to block attempt of Hamas to go back to the Rafah checkpoint area and to area close to the border between Gaza Strip and Egypt. Parallel to that, there is a naval and Air Force attack supported by the intelligence of the ground forces, targeting area that been built and recovered during the ceasefire, taking advantage of the ceasefire agreement the last few weeks. By the way, including the place in Khan Younis that from this base, the Hamas launched 3 rockets this morning in Israel. The Houthis that launched 2 rockets since the beginning of the war under pressure of the U.S., as you know, and what the U.S. are doing in this part of the world is not even close to what been done under the administration of Biden. The U.S. actually opened the target for the Central Command, the U.S. CENTCOM, and the loss of the Houthis are tremendous. We don't know exactly the names and the basis and the result, but from the one that been published and the one that the IDF spoke about with me, it's a very strong attack toward the main asset of the Houthis is nothing close to what they face even during the Israel attack to the port of Yemen during the war. So that's creates significant pressure, not only on the Houthis, but on the Houthis and the Iranian. And the head of this octopus, the Iran, in a way, are losing their control on the proxies. The Houthis are not following the request of Iranian to reduce the friction. And there is even kind of behind the scene pressure on Hamas to go back to the negotiation table, not only by the traditional negotiator, the Qatarian and the Egyptian, but also from the head of the snake from Iran itself. So those military pressure, though the Hamas are creating or leading to starting to the situation that Israel tried to lead to, which is to first of all to release the hostages and make sure that at the end of the war, Hamas is no longer not only a military organization or terror military organization in Gaza, but is not only controlling and is not longer the regime of Gaza Strip. That's will take time. For the day to come, we'll see continuous of the pressure by the U.S. toward the Houthis in Iran and by Israel toward Gaza Strip. We could face here and there launch of rocket toward Israel, not only from the Houthis, but also from Gaza Strip. There's still hundreds of rockets in Gaza Strip, has been mentioned. And pull the pressure in a way that the Hamas will go back to the negotiation table, or the pressure will get higher and higher every day. That's the journey for the day to come, while we're trying to keep the situation in Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and the other arena that have been mentioned. That's very briefly the situation in Gaza Strip.
Thank you very much for the analysis. And so, General, what you're saying is that the kind of success that the American military's had against the Houthis over the course of the last few days is very significant. And it's almost, it's a tragic, sad situation. This is something that could have been done months ago, a year ago, and unfortunately it wasn't. But we're seeing great results in terms of the breaking up of the infrastructure of the Houthis. Is that the sense you have?
Definitely. It's not only the attack itself but the meaning of it. It sent a clear message: we are not here to play. We won't accept the way you're sabotaging the naval path that's surrounding the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, leading to the Suez Canal, or dealing with the movement between Asia and Africa and Europe by general. It's not an Israeli problem. It's influenced the world and definitely Europe. So we won't accept it, and we're not singling by paying the lowest price we can pay to deliver a message. We're sending a very strong message. If you want to change your attitude, we're going to move forward. And we're not only going to move forward with the Houthis itself. Iranian, you are the one that supplied all those missiles. You are the one that supplied the knowledge. You are the one that lead this system of proxies. You're going to be the next target. Be aware that you're not out of the game. And this message wasn't part of the message since this new regime came to the White House. And that's a very strong message.
I don't know if that's something that can be shared. Do you have a sense of how many divisions will be in Gaza in order to have the maximum pressure on the Hamas and, so to speak, to break the military control of Hamas?
So, I mean, we can go back to the situation we were at the very beginning of the war. Just to remind us, there were 5 divisions during the time in Gaza Strip. We can operate differently. Israel didn't do with those 5 divisions everything that he could a year ago. We limited our maneuver because of many reasons, mainly because of the hostage situation. To remind ourselves, we had 250 hostages at the very beginning. Now we have 59. And we have better knowledge about who is alive and who is not. So the thing that limited our maneuver at the very beginning of the war are not at the same level today. And also, we can feel free from the perspective of the international law and from the perspective of our own values to operate differently because we have reasonably offer everything we can offer. We actually offer the Hamas very simply. Give back the hostages and we will declare ceasefire. That was the offer. There is many names and many specific kind of legal wording of what I'm saying, but generally speaking, that was the offer. Bring back the hostages and we'll declare ceasefire. Hamas are using very cynically the hostages to continue building itself as a terror organization. That's the situation. Is not giving damn about the misery of the Gazan people and what's this population are going through the last year and a half and what they're gonna go through if we'll continue with this attitude. I mean, Hamas itself. So it's very clear. The only thing that Hamas have to do to create a better future for the region and specifically for his own people, if it's his people. I will say the people that lives in Gaza Strip, not the Hamas people. For them, he just have to give back the hostages and withdraw from leadership, withdraw from leading this area to the misery he suffered before October 7. And everybody speaks about a war. We have to remember what Hamas did in Gaza Strip before October 7. Instead of building school, in building the society, and supporting his own people, he put his money in missiles, in ammunition, in digging facility under the ground. Just imagine that instead of these hundreds of miles of tunnel under the ground, he would build light trains, cleaning water factories, energy factories, schools, clinics, and so far and so on. The money was there. It just been used to different purposes. So it's not only that when we're speaking about the leadership of Hamas, we're speaking about the threat against Israel. We're speaking about the way he led his own, or the people that lives in Gaza Strip, to be more correct. So the offer is there. Israel have no motivation to keep this war forever. We want to have peaceful life for our people. We want our hostages to be back. We want it to be end. But for it to be end, Hamas must accept very, very reasonable and basic demand. And that's a situation. I mean, I can speak about the complicity and the political situation, but it's all small thing. It's all small bumper in very clear general picture. And hopefully, the people of Gaza and the Hamas leadership will understand this message. And if not, the Minister of Defense call it the gate of hell. The Hamas will, the people of Gaza will suffer from great attack. And we don't have to. It's Hamas that led them to this situation.
There were certain areas in central Gaza and northern Gaza. It may be because of knowledge of where hostages are being held. It may be other reasons. There were certain areas that the IDF had not gone into. We know clearly there were areas that the IDF had cleared out and had removed battalions. Are we looking in terms of the next few weeks that these areas will be cleaned up? Will the IDF will go into them?
So the IDF plans kind of multi-stage plans. And when I'm saying that the pressure will get higher and higher, it will reach to those areas as well. it starts with Air Force attack and naval attack and the three corridors that been mentioned at the very beginning. And it could get to a situation that the IDF will take all over Gaza Strip with 5 division or more. And that include all the parts and all the neighborhoods in Gaza Strip with no neighborhood will left behind.
Mhm. Total control.
Total control. And it's and the meaning of it is to declare kind of a military rule in Gaza Strip, which is not the goal of Israel, but it could get to it.
If you could take us to Judea and Samaria and what's happening there, what are some of the challenges that the IDF is dealing with? Because obviously we've all heard about this flow of weapons which comes from Iran through Iraq, through Jordan into Judea and Samaria. The fact that there's a brand new division being created to stop the flow of weapons from Jordan into Judea and Samaria. But if you could share with us your sense, your analysis of that area.
So in Judea and Samaria, we put it differently. Since Iran felt that losing the proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza Strip, they took a significant part of the assets that were planned to be sent to Gaza Strip and to Lebanon and changed its direction to Judea and Samaria. So they always support of the Iranian to the Muslim Brotherhood movement, Islamic Jihad and Hamas in Judea and Samaria all over the years. But that's accelerated dramatically since the war started and Hamas and Hezbollah started to suffer from the forces of and the power of the IDF. Meaning of what I'm saying, that in places that there were like 10 terrorists with weapons, now there is 100. Okay, and they've been able through the path that you mentioned, through many from Jordan, to smuggle ammunition and equipment and knowledge into Judea and Samaria. They took advantage of the places that we called Area A by the Oslo Agreement, that the IDF are not present all over the day while operating during the night sometimes, or even sometime during the night with the day when there is urgent things. But generally speaking, it's under the responsibility and the security of the Palestinian Authority. They took advantage of those places, especially at the north part of Samaria, the area of Jenin, the area of Nabal Shechem, mainly at the refugees camp, and start building a small military of terror in those areas. Just to put things in perspective, it's not even close to what we face in Gaza Strip, but it's definitely bigger than what we used to face in Judea and Samaria. So if I was dealing with group of 10, 15 militant at the refugee camp of Jenin, when I was the commander of the Central Command, the command of Central Command today dealing with hundreds. And that forced the IDF to operate differently. It could no longer be done by small group of special forces to arrest terrorists here and terrorists there. It forced the IDF to maneuver with bigger formats, with brigades and battalion into the refugee camp and do operation that will clean and deal with those numbers of terrorists. We did it in Tulkarem, in Jenin, and now in Shechem. And that's the challenge in Judea and Samaria. The Judea and Samaria situation, from one hand, offered the IDF freedom of operation to do those maneuvers. It's not a big deal. It's not like a declaring war, or not even close to what we're facing in Gaza, not to mention Lebanon. But you have to remember that the friction and the lines of friction between the settlements and the heart of Israel and Judea and Samaria is not close to Gaza Strip and Lebanon as well. Judea and Samaria surround our capital, Jerusalem. There is over 500,000 settlement that lives settlers, sorry, that lives in Samaria and Judea. So the challenge to secure the settlement that lives in Judea and Samaria and the people that lives around the area of Judea and Samaria, which is the heart of Israel, has been mentioned. It's different kind of challenge, and the meaning, the bottom line of it, that regardless those operation in Jenin, in Tulkarem, and in Shechem, Israel have to operate day and night all along Judea and Samaria to prevent terrorists from launching the attempt to attack Israel in the heart of Israel every day. The settlers that lives in Judea and Samaria are facing different level of friction. Uh, uh, it's can be counted by the amount of stone that's been thrown along the roads in Judea and Samaria, Molotov cocktails, and so far and so on. For us, it's a small story when the Air Force are bombing the center of Gaza, but for family that drive or try to drive from the settlement to Jerusalem to get hit by stone, it's totally scary situation. And that's the situation in Judea and Samaria right now. Hopefully, and I truly believe that the IDF can deal with it in a few weeks, if not a few months.
So the kind of forces that are required to maintain safety and security in Judea and Samaria today are significantly more than we've required in the past. Is that the?
Oh, definitely. I won't tell the exact number. I just would tell that the amount of battalion that's serving right now in Judea and Samaria is 3 times bigger than the amount that I used to have.
Wow. And that is such a strain on the army that, as you mentioned, the divisions required on the Lebanese border, the Syrian border, the Jordanian border, Judea and Samaria, plus the divisions required in Gaza. It's a huge strain on the population of Israel, on the reservists. It's not easy.
That's the main challenge, by the way. For the active soldier, it doesn't matter. He will be active anyway. He will be active for his 3 years of service, of his mandatory service in Gaza, in Lebanon, wherever it's needed. The main challenge for the IDF and for the economy of Israel and for the people of Israel is the reservists. The reservists that serve 200-300 days already, been called again because of the needs in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza Strip, in Syria, in Lebanon. The fact that we have ceasefire in Lebanon doesn't mean that all the forces that used to defend the fence of Lebanon went back home. No, they didn't. The challenge of the security routine along the border in Lebanon and the buffer zone in Syria and in Judea and Samaria are a lot greater than we used to have during the regular day, I mean, before October 7th. So it pulls huge pressure on the reservist unit and therefore on the Israel economy. To mention again that the one that leading the reservist unit, the battalion commander, the platoon commander, the same leader that leading the main brand, the main company, the Houthi company, the lawyer brands of Israel and so far and so on. And the same doctor that meet you on a daily and regular day in the ER of the hospital are the doctors that serving as the medical field doctor of this reservist battalion. So it touched every place, every city, every town in Israel, and definitely it's influenced the economy of Israel, and it's put a lot of pressure on the families and on the economy of Israel by general.
In this year, in 2025, we're looking at these reservists, men and women between 22 and 38 years old. They're going to be giving probably 2 months of the year. Before anything else, they're starting with 2 months of the year serving the security and the defense apparatus, which is a huge stress and a huge commitment.
Oh yeah, that's going to be hopefully that's going to be the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If that's going to be the situation, it means that we are in control. And again, just to give you the flavor or the context, on regular day, the IDF reservist unit do kind of 3 years journey of service. 1 year is training, 1 year is doing a security routine. It could be in Judea and Samaria, in Gaza Strip, whatever it's needed. And the third year, it's kind of mix of commander training and building the force. So, and in each year is doing for the commander, it's a little bit more than a month, but for the average soldier, it's like 3 weeks. So if you're not an officer, you're just an infantry soldier in one of the reserve unit, you're probably going to do like 3 weeks of reserve per year, not more than that. Compare 3 weeks to 300 days. Okay. My daughter, she's in reserve, young captain. She finished 455 days of reserve, and she's not that unique. Meaning that she were an active
155
officer
days.
more than a reservist the last year,
My God.
more than a year.
Out of 520 days, out of 530 days, she worked 455 days, and she was there in the army.
Yeah, she served more than a year. It's year out of her life, and she work in her company. She's a student. Prior to that, everything is in pause. She's going to finish her master this year instead of last year.
Wow.
That's a huge challenge. Now to speak about the fact that we have a lot of rehabilitation needs, a lot of recovery needs for the community that lives in the south, the community that lives at the north, for the bereaved families. There is a lot of processes that Israel have to start, and it didn't start it fully yet. It start here and there, but our program and journey as FIDF to support the well-being and the mental health of the soldier and the families of the soldier in Israel are dealing with huge challenges, and we just started yet. We just started because people have no time to deal with it. They're so busy with the ongoing war that they cannot treat with their mental wounds that have to be taken care of. So the meaning of continuous war, that war that continue more than a year, it's not only on our economy that very easily measure in number and everybody speaks about. It's influenced the whole community, the people of Israel, the wealth and the relation between the community in Israel and between the community in Israel and the leadership, including the IDF itself. So we as FIDF have a huge journey, huge challenge to face for 2025, obviously, but it won't end in 2025. We'll start deal with those mountains of needs in 2025 that will continue with us to 2026, 2027, and the years to come. We took upon ourselves huge responsibility. Proudly, we took it upon ourselves, and hopefully will fulfill the expectation from the IDF, and will give those brave young men and women and the family that suffer a lot what they need to get from the Jewish people in Israel and the diaspora. And we're representing the diaspora, so we're sending a very strong message here.
One of those programs, in general, please feel free to jump in, a program we have called After the Shiva. Each of the 870 families who have lost a loved one, depending on their financial needs, if it's a widow, if there's a widow with one child, two children, they do get a certain amount from the government each and every month. So for some families, that works. For other families, it doesn't. An example would be a young couple took out a huge mortgage, tried to settle in a community. She was going to raise the children. He's the breadwinner. He gets killed at war. He's killed in Gaza or killed in Lebanon. How's she going to pay a mortgage like that? So we have a program where families here in America can adopt a bereaved family, can have a relationship with a bereaved family, where they can reach out to them on the yard site, reach out to them on Yom HaZikaron, at key times during the year, besides there being a financial commitment during the year. Mishloach manot on Purim, holiday gifts for Pesach, for Rosh Hashanah, etc. Hanukkah gifts for the children. We have a program like that, and it's being administered by former casualty officers of the IDF. If someone would want to be a sponsor, if someone would want to have a connection, and there are 3 levels. It's a 3-year commitment. One level is 16,000, one level is 11,000 a year, one level is 6,000 a year. 6, 11, and 16. Each of those levels of commitment is a 3-year commitment. If there's anyone that would have an interest, please feel free. Steve.Weil, steve.weil at FIDF.org, steve.weil at FIDF.org, and there will be probably between 230 and 270 of the bereaved families that can use the extra help and also are willing to have a relationship with someone in the diaspora to know that they're not alone, that their loved one has not been forgotten, that they have not been forgotten. We're looking for donors for that program, and we look forward to your support, and we thank you in advance for your support. General, if you'd like to comment
just
about
one thing I wanna add to that. Look, the request in Israel it's really endless. The needs is a lot greater for our ability, and we're trying to follow the priority of the MOD and the IDF. Try to really touch the places, the center of gravity that makes a difference. I'm sharing it because I'm getting like hundreds of mails and texts every day with requests to support this effort and that effort, and it's all important. I never been asked to do something that's not meaningful. A lot of very meaningful requests, but we are trying to focus on the main program that really makes a difference, and we're working on this priority or getting this priority from the MOD and the IDF themselves. We're dealing weekly discussion with them to see that we're on the same page. And therefore it's important to send this message. I'm welcome all the suggestion, all the program that you're sending me. It's all important, but really understand that we are reading it very seriously. Well, we are sending it to the IDF and the MOD to ask for their guidance about them, and we're trying to do our best to be focused and follow the center of gravities, the place that our ascent could really makes a difference.
one other program we want to share, and we'd like to have the general comment on it. So far, we have not collected the funds, we've committed to the training of 400 therapists who do not have a background in PTSD. They're being trained by Dr. Mickey Pollack and his team at Sheba. And not only are they being trained in PTSD, but they'll be managed over the next 10 years in one of 6 facilities that we're funding these facilities. The cost of the training and the management of each of these therapists is $20,000. If someone, and you'll have a chance, you'll get the name of the therapist that you've funded to train and to be managed. But we're looking for 400 families that would commit to each of these therapists for the cost of the training. Just to give a sense, in each of the satellite locations, they're starting out with 720 soldiers. It will build up to 1,000 and maybe more, but it'll build up to capacity of 1,000, 1,100 in each satellite location. The central location of Sheba, the satellites are Nahariya, Haifa. There's a Tel Aviv location, a Jerusalem location, and a Beersheba location. But the primary location in Sheba will have many, many more soldiers. We're dealing with people dealing with acute PTSD, people dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety. And the goal here is that we don't have in Israel what happened in the United States after Vietnam, what happened in the United States after Persian Gulf II. We need these young men and young women who've sacrificed their youth, their innocence. You heard the general say about his daughter, that she's literally given a year and a half, put her life on hold as a reservist. They've sacrificed everything. We need them to be healthy. We need them to be whole, to be complete, so they can be fathers and mothers, they can be husbands and wives, and they can contribute to the Israeli economy for the next 60, 70 years of their life.
Yeah, and I will add to that, Steve, that we are running against the clock here. It's an urgent thing because as soon as you interfere with this process, you prevent PTSD. And as soon as it's better, we're trying to create a situation that Israel will have a large amount or greater amount of caregiver that could deal with this challenge as soon as possible. The journey that we're doing with Sheba is that we're recruiting as soon as possible caregiver. They could be a medical doctor, social worker, or even people with the right characteristic that could be a very simple caregiver and work for in these facilities. Again, I'll mention my daughter again. My daughter has been mentioned of going to finish a master in psychology this year. And they reached to her class to recruit those students that about to finish their master to go through this training in Sheba, and by that, hopefully, during this year we could offer better support to the reservists and the soldier of the IDF, and by that prevent the challenge of needing with thousands of PTSD cases in Israel in the near future. So it's not only important; it's urgent. It's urgent to deal with it as soon as possible.
General, as well, could you comment on this? You may have numbers that are much more up to date than I have. The program of early detection, where anyone who has frontline duty is brought primarily to Ashkelon, but to other facilities as well. So far, over 250,000 soldiers, not necessarily unique, distinct soldiers. It could be that a soldier received this 2 or 3 times, but 250,000 soldiers. Of them, 2,800 have been taken out of their units, been given immediately therapy, been addressed because they were targeted by the therapist as being someone at serious risk or first stages of PTSD. General Padan, if you could speak to that program, the Soldier Recharge.
So this program dealing with recharge, I mean, generally speaking, it's allowed the soldiers to get out of Gaza, have a 7-hour sleep, have dinner, new clothes, shower and everything. But the most important part of this research day is the mental digest, or the after action process that mental leader and the commander are doing with the unit. And that allowed them to digest and processes the what they went through during the war. And it's also important because it's allowed the professional to identify who need an extra care, one-on-one care, clinic care. Those are the ones that you mentioned that been sent back to the unit. So if almost 300,000 soldiers went through the R&R, the recharge weeks, and went through this mental process, and over 2,500 went to the clinic process. 85% of them been sent to the unit, and right now in our BIT center, the resilience center that we established with the IDF and support by FIDF, we're treating 730 soldiers. I mean, supporting by one-on-one clinic care, and hopefully significant part of them will be sent back to the unit, or if they're reservists, sent back to life. So this effort saved the soul, and by that the life of so many. And it should be mentioned that we're not only saving, in that case, the life of the specific soldier, but also his family and his first circle. Because to live with someone that suffers from PTSD, it's a huge, huge challenge. Just imagine kids that their father wake up in the middle of the night screaming, or you have no ability to communicate with them. Those efforts save the life, and it's a lot more than just say thank you to those people that put their soul and body in risk. It saved the spirit of the people that leading Israel.
So over 2,500 have been taken out, and you're saying as we speak right now, 730 are in therapy.
Yeah, in our what we call the BIT center, the resilience center of the IDF. They're treating right now 730 soldiers.
And that's the WeWorks facility in Tel Aviv Yafo.
Correct. And that's only the medical part of it. Just to remind you, there is two sections of this center, resilience center. One of it is the mental supporter, and the other is the clinic supporter. I just spoke about the clinic supporter. At the mental supporter, all those commander training, the R&R processes that have been mentioned before are running. The 730 is only the one that have kind of a one-on-one clinic support from this part of this resilience center.
Major General Padan, we want to thank you. Thank you very much for analysis, for answering our questions, and for sharing with us.
Thank you all for the support. It's really makes a difference. It's really notified by the IDF. Every place that we are visiting, people reach to us when you see the FIDF shirt and say thank you. And we'll say, no, we came to say thank you to you. I said, no, we want to say thank you to you. It's kind of a lovely, strong bridge that's been created between the Jews here at the US and the young men and women that serve in the IDF. And it's warmed the heart to see those meeting. And I feel that I have all the reason to say thank you on behalf of the soldier, for you for your support.